Hi, I'm Tabobo Pape and welcome to our third lesson on transactional writing. As you remember, transactional writing is different from creative writing in that transactional writing is writing for a specific purpose or function, whereas creative writing is more like poetry or essays where one is writing for pleasure. In our last lesson, we looked at sending friendly letters. We saw how friendly letters are written to close friends and family members, mainly for the purpose of conveying news. We also looked at how it is important to convey and establish an informal diction and style appropriate to the situation. Do you remember what these words mean, diction and style? Diction refers to the choice of words appropriate to the situation, and style refers to the language and form of communication used for a specific audience and purpose. In today's lesson, we are going to move on and look at another type of transactional writing, which is formal letters. Who would formal letters be written to? Well, formal letters are written to business people, managers, principals, to perform formal transactions such as making a complaint, requesting information, or to state a viewpoint. By the end of this lesson, you should be able to decide when to write a formal letter or a friendly letter, use the appropriate diction and style for a formal letter, and set out a formal letter correctly. Now, how do you know when to write a formal letter instead of a friendly letter? If you would like to make a complaint or a request and you're not sure what type of letter to write, then ask yourself the following questions. Why am I writing this letter? To whom am I writing this letter? And what do I want to happen as a result of writing this letter? Also, what tone and style would be most appropriate for this type of letter? For example, imagine I bought a toaster and discovered that it didn't work properly. Let's look at our checklist of questions and see what type of letter would be appropriate. Why am I writing this letter? I want to complain about the faulty toaster and request a new toaster or a refund. To whom am I writing this letter? To the manager of the store where I bought the toaster. What do I want to happen as a result of writing this letter? Well, I want a new toaster or I want my money back. What tone and style would be most appropriate for this type of letter? In this case, I would use a formal style and a complaining tone. Because I'm writing to someone that I don't know and I want my complaint to be taken seriously, for those reasons I would use a formal style. Clearly, in this case, I would use a formal letter as opposed to a friendly one. So, now that we know that we're writing a formal letter, let's look at the format for a formal letter. Unlike friendly letters where format is not that important, with formal letters, format is very important and must be set out correctly. The reason for this is that if you're going to take the time to write any formal letter, you want to be taken seriously. This is far more likely to happen if your letter is neat, dated, addressed to the correct person, and includes a heading. To ensure that your letter has all these features, make sure that you set it out using the following format. Here I've used an example complaining about service in a restaurant. Your address or the sender's address and the date go here. It is written in block form halfway across the page. Remember, no punctuation is included in the address. The title of the person you're writing to is written close to the left-hand margin on the line directly beneath the date. The name of the organization or business or maybe even the school that you're writing to is written here, followed by the address. Remember to address the person formally. If you know the name of the person that you're writing to, then write Dear Mr. Whoever. If you don't know the name, then write Dear Sir or Madam. And remember, do not use punctuation. Also, remember to leave lines between paragraphs. When the letter is addressed to a specific person, for example, Dear Mrs. Smith, then sign off with Yours sincerely. But if you begin your letter by saying Dear Sir or Madam, then sign off with Yours faithfully. And remember to include your name beneath your signature. Now, let's take a look at the content of this letter. Take note of the choice of words, the style, and how the content is set out. This letter begins by giving some background information. Last weekend, my family and I ate dinner at the Woodbank branch of Steak Palace. We were most disappointed with both the food and the service and would like to draw several matters to your attention. So, that was the background information. Now, let's look how the letter goes on to list the specific problems. Our waitress, Cindy, was clearly inexperienced and was unable to answer even simple questions about the meals. My wife and I were disappointed with the quality of the steak. The portions were smaller than those advertised and were overcooked. Now that the specific problems have been listed, finally, it is important that the manager is informed of the customer's request. I suggest that you investigate this branch of your restaurant as it is not living up to the high standards of the rest of the chain. This is a formula. It is a logical pattern that can be adapted to any situation where you may have to write a formal letter. Let's summarize the formula. A formal letter must describe the situation or background information, state the message or main idea, include supporting details or statements, and state what action you would like the recipient to take. Now, let's apply this formula to another situation. If you were making a request to a technikon or a university, this formula would still apply. Let's see how it works. The first part of the formula is to describe the situation or background information. I am currently in grade 12 and am interested in completing a course in travel and tourism once I have matriculated. You would also have to state the message or the main idea. So, you would say, according to an advertisement in the Star newspaper, this course is offered at your college and I would like to find out more about it. Now we have to include supporting statements or details. In particular, I would like to know how long the travel and tourism course takes to complete, what the fees are, and whether it is possible to study part-time or by correspondence. And finally, we have to state what action we would like the recipient to take. Please send me more information about this course as well as the application forms, as I would like to enroll for my tertiary studies as soon as possible. This is a formula that you would apply to all your formal writing. The next concept that we have to remember is always use simple language. A common mistake that is made by learners and even business people is thinking that using complicated language will make them sound more intelligent, whereas in actual fact, using long-winded wording makes the reader unable to understand what you're trying to say. Let's look at the following examples. With reference to our correspondence on the 3rd day of February, we hereby advise you that the aforementioned work has now been completed. Your check is enclosed herewith. Please contact the undersigned telephonically at your earliest possible convenience to confirm that it is in your possession. Wow! Doesn't that sound complicated? Let's see what the person actually meant. We refer to our letter sent on the 3rd of February. The work has now been completed. Enclosed is your check. Please phone to confirm that you have received it. This is still formal, but it gets the message across concisely and simply because the language is not too complicated. So, you see, no matter what type of letter you're writing, it is important to structure your content and keep your audience in mind when choosing your words. It is important for you to know how to write a formal letter, as you may one day find yourself in a situation where you will need to write a formal letter making a formal request or perhaps a complaint. Remember, formal letters should be set out using the correct format. They should be neat, dated, addressed to the correct person, and include a heading. You should pay attention to tone, style, content, and diction. Also make sure that they are appropriate to the formal situation. If you want your letter to be taken seriously, make sure that your request or formal complaint is logical, firm, yet polite if you want a response. For really good examination practice, your task is to write a genuine formal letter. Now that you know how to write a formal letter, I hope that you will be encouraged to write formal letters to request information or complain if you've received bad service. In our next lesson, we move to the workplace where we will be looking at business writing. Goodbye.